Hey everybody, this is Pooka and I'm back with another game from the first round of the Top Cut Invitational. This time we have U.S. National Champion John Roberts II, the Klinklang hero, who just mulliganed and shows us that indeed he is playing Klinklang once again, versus a guy you might have heard of. He is the winner of the Top Cut Invitational 2011, two-time world champion, Tropical Mega Battle champion, Fan Appreciation Tournament champion, and all-around legend of the game, Jason Klaczynski. And this should be an interesting matchup. Now, Jason wanted to take full advantage of the 90-minute best 2 out of 3 format we have for the top 4, so he decided to go with a Vileplume deck this time around. He's going with the same deck he used at US Nationals, which was the Vileplume Mismagius deck with Darkrai and a whole plethora of attackers. So basically, they are similar decks, except Jason runs Vileplume and John doesn't. So we'll see how this interesting matchup plays out. Generally, I would give the advantage to John, to be honest, because he plays that Kyogre EX, which is so devastating against any Vileplume deck. The Dual Splash can just knock out 2 Oddishes if they don't evolve them before they... Or if he can Dual Splash before Vileplume comes into play, the game is pretty much over. John will have access to trainers the whole game, Jason won't, and it's just going to be ugly. If Jason can get a quick Vileplume, maybe he'll have a shot at, surviving the Dual Splash storm. So we are going to flip a coin and get started here, and Jason starts with a lone Pichu. There's a bit of a risk to start with a lone baby Pokemon, but I think Jason realized that, I don't think a Klinklang deck plays anything that can even attack on turn 1, so it's worth the risk. Don't want to get catchered and run the risk of not being able to Playground turn 1. Now, John has actually said he prefers when his opponent uses Playground because he gets to search for all of his lovely Pokemon. He gets to go for the Darkrai. Kyogre he's already got out there. He has a Groudon as well, so... yeah, I mean, Playground lets him search for all of his basics that he'll want out there for the rest of the game, so he doesn't have to waste time or draw into them or waste time searching for them. So Jason is going to go ahead and use this Playground with Pichu. He's going to search his deck, and here John's going to figure out what he's playing against, and right away he's figured out, Mischievous. And Jason is going to grab Mischievous, Oddish, Darkrai. Let's see, he can get 2 more, we'll see what he gets, and Entei. That's an interesting choice. Not sure why he would go for that one. Maybe he's worried John will actually attack with Klinklang. I don't know what the Entei is for. But he went for it rather quickly. Maybe he forgets what's actually happening in this matchup. Jason did use the straight Darkrai deck at Worlds. So it's been a while since he's used this Vileplume deck. And he's actually not going to even fill his bench. He's just going to grab those Pokemon. He realizes if he takes an Oddish, if it's going to be knocked out, it's going to be knocked out by a Pokemon with 3 energy. So he might as well just take 1 Oddish. If he can't evolve it, he's going to be in trouble. Now, let's see. He did not get an energy attachment. That was unfortunate. You would think that he would attach an energy just because Mismagius can move it around, but he decided not to. And it looks like he will wake up from the sleep. And John actually plays 2 Kyogre. Uh-oh. That's bad news for Jason. The good news is that John doesn't really seem to have much of anything in his hand. It looks really bad, actually. He has a bunch of trainers and maybe an energy. And he's going to communication for that Klang, the stage 1. Next turn he can evolve that. And he just wants to make sure that he can get a Klinklang into play. That's going to be one of his priorities for the match. He doesn't even have an energy. He just has 2 max potions, a catcher, and a Klang. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible hand, no matter how you look at it. So he's going to catcher out a Oddish, it looks like. And all he can do is pass, and he's going to hope that Jason doesn't have anything, because John certainly doesn't have anything. And now it's going to be up to Jason to take advantage of the situation. He's got all of his Pokemon out there. He's got the Darkrai. He can try to get a Vileplume out. If he does, that'll be big. There's no energy on John's field. Doesn't have to worry about any attacks coming anytime soon. Jason's just going to Collector, thin out his deck a little bit. He grabs a Mewtwo, an Oddish, a Shaman EX. And if he can get Vileplume out immediately, I think he's got a great shot to win the game. The Klinklang deck is mostly trainers. You know, it's got the Klinklang line, you got energy, you got the other basics, but those really only take up about 20 spots in your deck, then maybe like 10 supporters. So overall, like 30 cards of your deck are probably trainers that shut off, or that are shut off by Vileplume. But Jason's gonna have to use Find a Friend, and he gets Tails. No friends for him this time. And oh, John top decks the N. Here we go. Okay, so he's gonna get right back on track. That Find a Friend would have let Jason search for any grass Pokemon, which probably would have been Vileplume. I don't know if he plays Gloom or not. But it looks like a very slow start for Jason. Hasn't got anything going so far. And John is just going to try to get some energy down on the field. And really he wants to get Eviolite down on the field as well. Anything he can do before Vileplume comes out, he wants to do it. So he's going to Heavy Ball. That'll let him get his Klinklang for next turn. And if you're Jason, you got to be feeling a little pressure. You know, if some energy start hitting the field, then you start feeling the pressure. There's a Rare Candy and a Klinklang, so that comes into play. Does John have an energy, though? That's the big question. Once 2 energy hit the field, you start to get scared because anything can start to attack. And John's going to put an Eviolite down, but no energy once again. Wow. Rough start for John, even though he has the Klinklang and the Klang. Doesn't have anything else going for him. So here we'll see what Jason decides to do. He could just retreat to Mismagius and dual draw. Then both players would draw 3. I'm sure John would appreciate that. But Jason, I don't think he cares. There's no energy on John's field. He is in no hurry to do anything. And oh, he has to waste a Prism energy. That's unfortunate. If he evolves to Mismagius, then he won't be able to move that off because it'll turn back into a colorless energy. So I think he realized that. Said, oh, never mind, I don't want to do that. And we'll see what he actually wants to do. He's in a weird spot. In a position where the energy drop on the Mismagius won't actually accelerate his energy at all. And he's going to Find a Friend once again. That is not a very good start. But he gets heads, so he can search for a Vileplume or a Gloom. We'll see which one he gets. Hopefully his Vileplumes are prized, and he goes for the Vileplume. So that's good. John, once again, draws no energy. He draws a Junk Arm. Well, he'll see if he wants to play the Junk Arm and get rid of any of that stuff. Maybe he can get back his Catcher. Try to slow Jason down a bit more. Catcher out the Darkrai, perhaps. Since he'll have to attach to retreat that, or maybe even the Mismagius. So yeah, John will Junk Arm away his Darkrai and Max Potion. Looks like he's going to grab the Catcher. It's a weird decision, you know, he's just trying to buy time to get energy into play. But Jason's deck revolves a lot around Twins, which only works when you're losing. So even though John's start is extremely slow, it really doesn't matter that much. As long as Jason doesn't get all of his Pokemon out immediately, like if he doesn't go Rare Candy, Vileplume, Mismagius, boom, start attacking you right off the bat. There's no pressure on John. He hasn't even gotten Vileplume out, so he still has access to trainers. And overall, this is still a close game, and I still give the edge to John. Once he gets the Kyogre powered up, Jason's going to be in so much trouble, it's not even funny. And John's just going to put down a Rainbow and a Max Potion right away. Move the Rainbow to Kyogre first, of course, with Klinklang Shift Gear. And I think that's probably going to end his turn. He doesn't have much else to do. It doesn't really matter what he does with the energy. Because he has Klinklang out, he can move it wherever he wants. And he does get that crucial energy attachment. That is the important part of the Klinklang deck. You need to get an energy attachment every single turn, because there's no energy acceleration in the deck. There's just preserving your energy. You get to move it around with Shift Gear. You get to Max Potion, heal your guy, so he never gets knocked out. But you don't get to do anything like Dark Patch, like Dynamotor, anything like that. You don't get to accelerate at all. You're limited to one attachment per turn. You just have to make sure that they stay out there once you get them. So if you miss a couple energy attachments, your whole deck is slowed down tremendously. Now Jason does get the rare candy Vileplume, and this is a big deal for him. He is able to start locking down those trainers, and he's going to think about benching a Terrakion. I don't know if he needs that quite yet. If he doesn't start to put on any pressure anytime soon, he could run into some trouble with John dual splashing his Vileplume repeatedly and then knocking it out, actually. Could be a problem. But it looks like Jason's going to be content to put a Psychic Energy on his Mismagius and dual draw, apparently. So both players will draw 3. I'm sure John is completely happy with that. And now we get into scary territory. We have a second Klinklang on the board. That's fine, though. He only needed 1. You're not really going to attack with it. I mean, you might, but those are very rare situations when you have Kyogre, Darkrai, Groudon all at your disposal. Why would you ever want to do anything besides attack with those big basics? They have much better attacks than Klinklang. And it looks like John will play an N right after the dual draw. So even though Jason has this Vileplume, I don't think he's in a good position. Once John uses Tromp this turn, Vileplume is going to be 2 dual splashes away from being knocked out. And when that happens, it's going to be ugly. John will have access to his max potions again, and catchers. And when that happens, you really can't beat Klinklang because, I mean, you don't play trainers, he does, and he gets to play them still. That's not a winning formula, no matter how you look at it. So John gets those 2 energy on his board. He's going to use Tromp, put 10 damage on all of the bench Pokemon, which means that Vileplume now has 20 damage on it, which means 100 hit points left. Now Jason does play Pokemon Center. That could come up in this game, if he gets it onto the board. He actually decided not to play it early on. I'm not sure what his reasoning was for that. Maybe he thought it could benefit his opponent, so he decided not to do that. But either way, that's going to end up hurting him. Not having the Pokemon Center, and he just dual draws again, so his hand is really bad. It's just been clunky all the way. And now, if you're John, it was probably a scary opening sequence. You didn't attach energy the first 2 or 3 turns, your opponent got the Vileplume out before you could dual splash. But now you're thinking, alright, he's really not threatening me at all. I have everything I could ever want. I got 20 damage on the Vileplume already. Where's the downside? I can just start dual splashing, and he plays another N actually. So he's going to negate the fact that Jason used dual draw 2 turns in a row. Of course, Jason wanted to keep the 3 cards he drew, I'm sure. But now John's making him go back down to 6 cards. Usually don't think of N to 6 as disruption, but in this situation it actually is. And John will get a fresh hand of 6 as well. He doesn't really need anything else at this point. Maybe he might need some more energy, or might want to start stockpiling trainers for when he can knock out the Vileplume. But other than that, no, he doesn't really need anything else. Just attach every turn, and he'll be happy with that. So this is an interesting spot. Where do you put the dual splash damage? Number 1 is going to be Vileplume. You want to get that out of play. And, yeah, he's your number 1 target just so you get access to your max potions again. Basically, if this Vileplume gets knocked out, Jason can never get another Vileplume into play. And actually, John decides to knock out the Mismagius, which is an interesting choice. Maybe he just... Well, there's nothing Jason can really do anymore without the energy acceleration. He cannot use Mismagius to move the energy around. And the way that's spread out right now is really bad. He's got a rainbow on the Vileplume, a prism on the Entei, and a prism on the Terrakion, which is the good one. He can actually attack with that. But the other ones are just really bad. He really needs to twins this turn and get his Pokemon Center to save his Vileplume. He doesn't have any other choice, I don't think. And at this point, his bench is just kind of clogged. The Pichu is just taking up the bench spot. That's not good. And, you know, the Entei is also taking up a bench spot. I'm not sure why he went for that. That's not going to be useful at all in this matchup. So he's going to Twins, and we'll see what he decides to get. I'm sure one of them is going to be the Pokemon Center, and yep, go figure. Pokemon Center. He's going to heal 20 from his Vileplume. He gets another energy on his Terrakion, so he will be able to retaliate for 90. But I don't know if he has a follow-up for it. He's going... Yeah, he's just going to retaliate for 90. Maybe next turn he can pull off some shenanigans with like a Seeker, pick up his Pichu, and then he can bench 2 more Oddishes to get another Vileplume in play. 'Cause John can't dual splash 3 Pokemon. It's not Tri-Splash. So there is one option for Jason. But no matter what he does, he is going to be in a bad spot. And the Pokemon Center is actually going to benefit John as well. He can heal 20 from his Kyogre, which will bring it down to 70 damage, which means a Land Crush won't knock that out. So John can take advantage of the Pokemon Center as well. But he's just going to dual splash 50 to Terrakion, 50 on the Vileplume. I can't tell if he actually healed his Kyogre. Maybe he forgot about that. Won't be too big of a deal, but it's important to note that you can take advantage of your opponent's stadium cards a lot. And now what does Jason do here? I mean, his Terrakion is a little beat up. It's going to be knocked out next turn. I don't think he'll have a backup. He can't move the energy around. He can't do much of anything. What does he do? He's just kind of in a checkmated position, which is exactly what Kyogre can do. The big hurdle for Vileplume decks is the bench space. You know, if you could have 8 bench Pokemon, Vileplume would be in like every deck, just because you would always have bench space for him and you could do whatever you wanted. Why not shut off trainers? If I can bench a Superior, Reuniclus, Musharna, Venusaur, Darkrai, Chandelure, somebody go make that deck now. But no, if you have bench space for that kind of stuff, obviously your deck would be including more cards like that. But for this, you have to always bench multiple Oddishes, otherwise, you know, you're going to get knocked out. Jason started with a Pichu, that's a bench spot. The Entei was, I'm going to just go out and say it was not a good decision to get the Entei. It's really not going to help him at all in this matchup. Maybe he just saw the metal and thought Entei was going to be good, but it's really not in this matchup at all. And now, where does he go from here? It's going to be a game where he does not have trainers and John does. And when you do not have trainers, and your opponent has stuff like Max Potion, Catcher, Junk Arm, what exactly do you do about it? Even Dual Splash every turn is going to mess with Jason so badly that he might not have a chance to win anymore. So this turn he's going to bench a Mischievous. I think he realizes that the Vileplume dream is over. Oof. He could put a Rainbow on the Terrakion. Yep, looks like that is what he's going to do. He wants to hit that Kyogre for 90, but I don't know if that's worth it. He's actually going to retreat to Entei. Uh-oh. And go ahead with the Fire Fang, maybe? Yeah. He's going to attach to the Entei. He's going to Pokemon Center his Terrakion and Fire Fang, 30 and Burn. Didn't think we'd see that, folks. John flips heads on the Burn. And at this point, I think he realizes that he's probably won the game. He can even just... Well, let's see. He's probably just going to retreat and Dual Splash with that other Kyogre after he uses Pokemon Center. And he'll knock out the Vileplume and maybe the Pichu as well. Or he can just do 100 to the Entei. There's really no bad option for him. At this point, he's fully set up. He has all these Pokemon out there. He's got enough energy to do what he wants. As long as he doesn't just like retreat and Night Spear, he'll be okay. Retreating and Night Spearing would be his one bad play. Because then, I mean, he would get knocked out by Terrakion. And he would lose all of his energy. So that's his only bad play. Otherwise, I think he's pretty safe. He could flip a couple tails for burn. In that case, he might... I don't know. He needs to use Pokemon Center, actually. He could just use Groudon. That's another option. Jason doesn't have much of an answer for the big bad Groudon. It's got 180 hit points, an Eviolite. Giant Claw is going to do 80, actually going to do 100 to the Entei. So, I think we're going to see a Dual Splash. I think as long as John doesn't get 2 tails, 3 tails actually. He would need to get 3 tails in order to be knocked out. So as long as he doesn't flip all 3 tails for burn, that Kyogre is going to be safe, Jason's going to be in trouble, and there's not a whole lot Jason can do about it. And we're going to see a slow, painful death. I think this turn we will just see the Dual Splash onto Entei and Vileplume. We could see it onto Mismagius and Vileplume, but no matter what, he's going to knock out Vileplume. That's not even a question. And let's see, yep, he's going to hit the Entei for 100 and the Vileplume for a knockout. Now, if you're Jason, you probably understand the position you're in. Really, all you can hope for is like an N at the end of the game. Hope John doesn't draw into his catchers and max potions and just kind of pray that you can pull a game out. I don't believe John used Pokemon Center again. I mean, Pokemon Center is not a card you're used to playing with, so sometimes you just don't realize it's out there. And you don't realize you can use it too, but he probably should realize this. Jason's going to play a Twins. Going to be able to search for any 2 cards that he wants. He could, let's see, he could actually go for a Mewtwo and X-Ball that Kyogre for 100. I think it has 50 damage on it. If John gets Tails, it'll be knocked out from burn. So he could actually go for the Mewtwo if he gets a Mismagius as well. There's a Mewtwo in his hand already. I don't think Jason plays double colorless, but if he did, he would get an X-Ball knockout for sure. That would be a huge play. That would be something that would give him a shot at the game. So there is the Mismagius. He can Magical Trans any one of those energy in play now. Ooh, he puts down an Eevee. Not sure what the plan is here. Is he going to go for Tickle? This might be a little too fancy for my taste. I'm not sure what he's going to go for. He will Pokemon Center. I guess he's going to heal off the Terrakion. Could heal from the Entei as well. Let's see. So there's 50 damage on the Kyogre. And let's see. He's going to Pokemon Center first. It's going to leave 20 on the Terrakion. That's a good play. He's not vulnerable to Night Spear anymore. So we're going to see a Magical Trans. Put a Prism on the Darkrai. Attached to the Darkrai as well. I think Jason at this point is just trying to find any sort of way out. I'm not sure what the plan is with the Eevee, but he's just trying to find any way out, even if that means Tickle. I don't think Espeon has a very good attack. Not one that I'm aware of. So that's not going to be an option. Maybe he plays like a Jolteon EX that's not legal anymore. Just drop that on John. Yeah, I just don't see what Jason's plan is here anymore. I don't know if he actually has a plan. He's just kind of playing it out, hoping that something can go his way, because so far it's been pretty bad. Now, if John has a catcher, he can take out the Entei and the Pichu, or even the Entei and the Eevee. This is why benching the Eevee is pretty bad, to be honest. Those are just 2 free prizes for John to take. Dual Splash can knock out both of them. Eevee only has, well, I don't know if that has 50 or 60 hit points. I can't remember, but Jason attached a Rainbow, so even if it did have 60, Dual Splash is going to knock it out. So there are 2 free prizes just waiting for John to take. And if he catches out the Entei, Dual Splash, knock out the Entei and the Eevee, then the Pichu is left stuck on the board. It's just going to get knocked out by a Dual Splash or a Night Spear. And the game will end. So I believe John does have 4 prizes left, so he will take 3 this turn. I'm sure I know he's a very smart player, so I know that he has this all set up already. I'm sure we'll just see the dual splash to the active, knock it out, and then knock out the Eevee. Next turn, he'll just knock out the Pichu, and we will see John Roberts win this game. Just kind of has to play out as a formality at this point. He's going to move some energy around. And Heavy Ball. He does have access to trainers once again. Now the Vileplume is gone. And once your Vileplume is done, you don't really have a Vileplume deck anymore. You just kind of have a deck with no trainers, which is incredibly worse than a deck that does play trainers. I don't know how else to emphasize this, but if your opponent can play Pokemon Catcher and you can't, well, you're in some trouble. So he's going to dual splash the Entei and the Eevee. I'm sure Jason realizes at this point that benching the Eevee was kind of a bad move, but I don't know if he had any other options anyway. Maybe this is actually his plan. He could drop a Shaman EX at this point and start going to town with Revenge Blast. That is one option I did not take into consideration. Maybe he wanted John to get down to one prize, but it still doesn't fix the problem that he has the Pichu on his bench, and he will lose the game to a Night Spear or a Dual Splash. And there's no way for him to avoid that unless he plays a Seeker. And if he plays a Seeker, John just picks up the Kyogre with all the damage on it, and Jason will lose anyway. So we do see this communication, puts in the Mewtwo. Probably going to grab the Shaman. Yep, there is Shaman EX. So Jason will take a couple prizes at least. And he's going to bench the Shaman. If he doesn't have a Seeker, he loses. So we'll see if he has the Seeker. Does he have a Seeker? Communication. He's going to put in Oddish and just grab the Oddish. So I'm going to go ahead and say he does not have... Nope, no Seeker, just an N. And now he just loses. No matter what happens, John can just shift all of his energy to a Kyogre or a Darkrai, and Pichu will be knocked out for the game. I'm sure Jason realizes this at this point. There's no way for him to avoid a loss. And he's just looking at it, thinking, alright, is there anything I can even do? And he says no. He's realized how poor his situation is. And he's showing John, he's like, I almost put in a Scissor Prime line just for this matchup, but I decided not to run it. Decided to run Espeon instead. So, yeah, they're just having some friendly chat after the game, but John Roberts II will take down Jason Klaczynski in somewhat of an upset. I'm not sure too many people predicted this outcome, but John Roberts II does take out Jason, and Jason actually takes John's deck on accident. They do have the same sleeves. They will shake hands once more. A lot of respect between these two guys. And John Roberts II will move on. He will be 1-0 in the Top Cut Invitational. Jason will drop down to 0-1. And we'll see how their next rounds go. Their next matchups should be interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys are going to do in the next game. Hopefully Jason has a little bit of a better game in the next one. So thanks for watching, guys. I've been Pooka, here from the Top Gun Invitational. We'll have more matches soon, so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys for the next one.